On Network Africa. 29 people killed in Stampede at Christian crusade in Liberia. Gunmen kidnapped 5 teachers and several students from a school in northwest Cameroon. Plus, Algeria closes schools amid rise in COVID-19 cases. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Tenyola Shoboale. We begin with some sad news as at least 10 people have died in Madagascar following heavy rains in the capital. 2 other people were injured. According to the National Bureau of Risk and Disaster Management, the rain caused floods, landslides, damaged houses and roads, displacing more than 500 people. Meanwhile, the Meteorological Department has warned of more heavy rains in the coming days. The rains come as southern parts of Madagascar are reeling from the worst drought in decades, and the United Nations estimates that more than 1.3 million people there are in need of food. To security matters, gunmen have attacked a school in northwest Cameroon, abducting 5 teachers and several students. Eyewitnesses say 1 student was injured in the head during the attack on the high school in a village in Menchum division. Some students say the attackers told them never to set foot in the school again. In the meantime, a local official said the army had been deployed to find the abducted students and teachers. Separatist fighters have tried to force schools to close in the country's 2 English-speaking regions. The United Nations says more than 800,000 children are out of school due to the separatist conflict. A provincial police chief in the Democratic Republic of Congo say members of a group allegedly linked to the killing of Italy's ambassador last year, as well as more recent kidnappings of NGO workers, have been arrested. Much of eastern Congo has been beset by violence in recent decades as rival militia fight government troops and each other for control of land and resources.
Police in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo have detained members of a group allegedly linked to the killing of the Italian ambassador last year. According to security authorities, they are also linked to more recent kidnapping of NGO workers. Last February, Ambassador Luca Antanasio, his bodyguard and driver, were killed during a botched kidnapping on a road in eastern Congo. They were heading to visit a UN humanitarian project at a school. The police commissioner presented the detainees on Tuesday, saying that the group's leader is still at large.
The leader of the group, called Aspirants, is on the run. They managed to tell us that when they kidnapped the ambassador. It was Aspirants who shot him. They regretted it very much because they were supposed to get $1 million in this hit. But the death of the ambassador meant they lost this money.
It is not immediately clear if the detainees had been officially charged. Much of eastern Congo has been beset by violence recently as rival militias fight government troops and each other for control of land and resources. United Nations and humanitarian organizations have warned that kidnappings and attacks on aid convoys, once relatively rare, are now on the rise.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is lauding efforts by the Ethiopian government to make peace in the country. Mr. Guterres says there is obvious effort to make peace in Ethiopia after more than a year of civil war in Tigray. Mr. Guterres was speaking to the African Union Chief Envoy to the Horn of Africa, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who briefed him on the peace efforts. The UN chief says the AU envoy expressed optimism that there is now a real opportunity for political and diplomatic resolution of the conflict. Federal troops have been fighting rebels in the north of the country for more than a year now, in a war that has ended thousands of lives. And now a Somalia minister has lashed out at a UK member of parliament pushing for the recognition of the breakaway region of Somaliland. Gamal Hassan accused UK MP Gavin Williamson of lacking facts about the Somaliland issue, revisiting the MP Williamson's past when he was fired as a minister. In the meantime, his motion in the UK Parliament on Tuesday to have the Somaliland region recognised as an independent state was adjourned. Somaliland declared independence after the overthrow of Somali military dictator Siad Barre in 1991. It's not officially recognised by any country as an independent state. Algeria has closed schools for 10 days and enhanced screening at airports and other control measures following a rise in coronavirus cases. It has also encouraged people to get vaccinated to counter the spread of the virus. The decision by President Abdulmajid Tebboune to shut schools starting from Thursday followed an emergency meeting of ministers, top health and security officials. A statement from the presidency, however, says that it's up to the universities to determine whether to close or reschedule their classes. And over in Liberia now, where at least 29 people, including 11 children and a pregnant woman, have died in a stampede at a Christian crusade. Police say the stampede happened on Wednesday night when a group of gangsters moved on the crusade ground and attacked worshippers in a densely populated area in the capital Monrovia community. One person who was carrying a knife has been arrested. In the meantime, the bodies have been taken to the morgue at Redemption Hospital, close to the crusade ground in a beachside place called New Crew Town. President George Weah has also visited those injured in hospital. The number of street gangs operating on the streets of Liberian cities has increased in recent years. Joining us now is Evelyn Sibe, a Liberian journalist, for more on this. Thank you so much for speaking to us on the program. I mean, a sad day. What more information can you tell us about this rather unfortunate incident?
The news is sad, and across the community, even on public transport vehicles, you hear people expressing, feelings of regret. It's a really time of mourning. The president also announced that there will be a time of national mourning for those who have lost their lives.
And how are Liberians reacting to this at this time, especially surrounding the circumstances? We're hearing that gangsters came onto the crusade scene.
Incident of such is actually, the first time for such incident like that. But over the past time, there's been so many calls from across different communities in Liberia calling for the government and the police or law enforcement to, increase their strength in combating the wave of, armed robbery attack, the wave of, illegal movement of guys and weapons across the country. So what actually happened is just one of the clear evidence of the many calls that people have been making. Some people are even saying now that they feel that even the gangster groups are getting more powerful than some of the law enforcement that should be taking place, which is very, very, very regrettable.
One of the suspects who was carrying a knife is said to have been arrested. Are there any leads to arresting the remaining gang members that attacked the worshippers?
So what is happening now, the police or the authority of law enforcement, they are still investigating. And they are hopeful that the investigation will lead them to getting other that are connected or other gang masters that are connected with this crime. But for now, there hasn't been any clear-cut, information. Maybe as time goes by, there might be other updates coming up in trace of other gang members. But for now, the police is still doing this work, is still investigating who are those connected with the attack of the worshippers.
The number of street gangs operating on the streets of Liberian cities are said to have increased. What's the government doing to stop this kind of thing from happening again?
Well, there's been a series of raiding. The government has raided several gangs in, spots, some of those hotspots across the cities. The past months, there were a real exchange of guns and fires attacks with the police authorities, the emergency response unit, we call the PSU, the police response unit, with some of these gangsters where some people died in the process. But it's really been on the increase, the wave of, these guys moving in communities, hijacking communities and robbing. The police, have raided several ghettos. They've raided several hotspots, but yet still it's really not made so much significant progress. But it is a serious challenge.
And we know President George Weah has visited those injured in hospital. Give us an update on the situation of those wounded in this incident.
So the Minister of Health, Dr. Wilhelmina Jala, announced earlier today that there are people who are still under critical conditions, who are currently undergoing treatment at the government's run facility, and some are responding gradually to treatment, while others, condition are still critical. But they are hoping that some people will recuperate and they can be able to, based on the treatment that have been given to them. And the truth is, the health practitioners are really doing their best, giving all of those who are in treatment, getting the right kind of treatment they need.
All right, then, Liberian journalist Evelyn Sibe, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And to other stories now, the authorities in Burkina Faso say they have disrupted access to Facebook due to security fears. The shutdown was first reported on the 10th of January and appears to have continued. The government says they do not have to explain themselves, and this comes after 8 soldiers were arrested last week Tuesday over a plan to destabilize the institutions of the republic. Local media believe it was a coup. South Korea has signed a memorandum of understanding for a $1 billion loan to Egypt. President Moon Jae-in announced this during his visit to Cairo, discussing with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi bilateral relations and strengthening cooperation in transportation, energy and telecommunications. The South Korean president's visit comes following a Gulf tour that started earlier this week. Ambassador Hong Jin-wook says that the loan is expected to be for 5 years. And still to come on the program. South African musician sings for justice with an Afro-pop album that recalls the country's mine massacre in 2012. More details in a moment. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Over to South Africa now, where the Labour Ministry has issued a statement over an opposition party's visits to local restaurants to find out their proportion of foreign workers. Economic Freedom Fighters Party leader Julius Malema toured several restaurants on Wednesday, along with other party members, conducting what it terms as oversight visits to assess whether South Africans were being employed in the hospitality industry. However, the Department of Employment and Labour says it's the one with the legal right to enforce compliance on labour matters and that the law protects all employees, irrespective of their nationality, as long as their employment status is legal. So in South Africa, residents are intrigued by anti-apartheid campaigner Desmond Tutu's choice of aquamation as a form of burial. He chose to be aquamated instead of buried or cremated, joining a growing general burial movement centered around the use of biodegradable materials and natural decomposition.
Even in death, South African anti-apartheid campaigner Desmond Tutu, revered around the world for his moral conscience, showed the world a better way, opting for an environmentally friendly alternative to traditional cremation. In aquamation, the body is submerged in a solution of water and alkali and a metal chamber heated to up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, triggering an identical process to that which occurs when a body decomposes underground. The body's organic materials break down, leaving only bones which are processed into a powder to be returned to the family.
Firstly, it uses much less electricity and gas than what your normal crematoriums will use. You do not make use of fossil fuels. So there's no fossil fuels, and there's no carbon emissions. So and the other thing is the water that it uses. It's not that much. It's sort of similar to what a small household will use. So it's definitely much more environmentally friendly.
Van der Westhuizen added the process uses 90% less energy than traditional cremation, and that some families also see it as gentler than fire cremation. Families also receive a greater amount of remains. Aquamation is comparable in price to flame cremation and significantly cheaper than burial. While it is increasingly popular in some countries like the United States, in South Africa, where funerals are a major and often costly event, aquamation is still an uncommon choice.
I was more, okay, how did the arch come to know of aquamation? I mean, we've been in the market with aquamation the past 2 years, but there was not a big drive for getting people to aquamate, just because the facility is currently fairly small, and we never really pushed the process. Our local branches were proposing it to customers and telling them about it, and if the customer decided they want to go green, wonderful. We're very happy for that. So I was a little bit, inquisitive on how did he find out about the process.
A veteran of South Africa's struggle against white minority rule who died on December 26, aged 90, Archbishop Tutu insisted there be no lavish spending on his funeral and that the cheapest coffin be used. Since learning about aquamation from him, some South Africans said they would consider following his lead.
I actually didn't know about it, but now that I do know about it, I wouldn't mind doing it myself, because it is environment friendly and so on. And I kind of had a situation where a family member was cremated a few months back. So using water, I would choose water. So I feel good about him choosing the water instead of the fire.
Following aquamation, Tutu's remains were interred in a wooden box beneath the floor of St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town.
Backed by silky synthesizers and down-tempo electronic beats, South African singer Masaki's new album recalls the 2012 massacre of dozens of striking mine workers that she says inspired her to protest against social injustice. Masaki's lilting voice aims to capture the sadness and disappointment felt after the 2012 showdown between police and strikers at the Marikana Platinum Mine.
4,000 rounds of bullets.
Masaki's Afro-pop album, Platinum Heart Beating, was released at the end of last year. The title is a play on words, referring to South Africa's platinum belt, but also to the emotional state of numbness that many felt after witnessing such police brutality.
Whose hands of blood? Whose hands of blood? So Platinum Heart is a reference to the mineral, platinum, and I changed the ending of the word to add a B, which is, a question about the state, the emotional state of being, of numbness. And so yeah, I merged those two words, and I think because the first song I wrote was Blood, Guns and Revolutions, which is about Madagascar and the Platinum Belt. It seemed fitting to just mark that was the moment that got me creating in this way and moving towards making what is somewhat a protest and an album of protest and love songs. Yeah.
For many South Africans, it seemed to dash hopes that the violent repression of protests has been relegated to their ugly apartheid past.
But what I can say is that a lot of my songs, the skin and bones of them are, they start with the heart, and I think the thread that I'm trying to notice through my music is, even though I'm going to things that are painful, I like encouraging. I'd like to build on that intentionally, to write songs that even if we're going down, we find a way to encourage each other to move forward.
Fetch your life, go on, be alive. Ain't nobody living out here. Be someone who's living out here. Fetch your life, go on, be alive. Ain't nobody living out here. Be someone who's living out here. Fetch your life, go on, be alive. Ain't nobody living out here.
Singing in Azosa mother tongue, Msaki's lilting voice aims to capture the sadness and disappointment felt after the 2012 showdown between police and strikers at the Marikana Platinum Mine. 44 people were killed there in the most violent police crackdown since the end of white minority rule.
Unreal. If you go to the Fetch Your Life video and just look on the YouTube and you see the comments there, it's blowing my mind how young people have the audacity to change their situation, This is like young people with inferior education, with unequal opportunities, with like not a lot to hope for, that are just reaching and trying to do things differently.
Msaka's songs also feature some household names in South Africa's dance music scene, including DJ Black Coffee, Kabza the Small, and rapper Focalistic.
And away from South Africa, over to Cameroon now. Super Eagles players are not getting carried away by their perfect group stage campaign and are taking game by game as they aim to win Nigeria's 4th AFCON title. The Eagles ended the first round with a perfect record after beating Guinea-Bissau 2-0 following earlier wins over Egypt and Sudan. They scored 6 goals and conceded just 1 in 3 games.
Actually, we don't have any favorite team. We just believe anything that comes our way, we just do our best to win.
This is when the tournament starts now, so very good. I think we have to focus on our own game. I think every game we're improving, and today as well there were some things we could do better. So we're just going to focus on ourselves and take each game by game and try and improve.
Meanwhile, interim coach Augustin Iguavon says Nigeria will be ready for any scenario against their round of 16 opponents at the Africa Cup of Nations. The Super Eagles' likely opponents include Gambia, Mali, Sierra Leone, Mali, Equatorial Guinea, Algeria and Tunisia. Iguavon has also been speaking on the support the team has been getting in Garoua, where they've played all their 3 group games.
We're going to, if we know our opponents, we're going to tactics, because we have to know our opponents first. We're going to tactics and how we want to play. And then to finish up this section, we're going to penalty shootouts. We have to prepare for penalties as well, because anything can happen. Yeah, they give us a lot of motivation. If you have people behind you, which means cheering for you to go, why not? I mean, and we don't want to disappoint them, because from day one we've been very, we've been feeling at home, so we try. When we see people behind us, it gives a lot of motivation.
We definitely wish them all the best. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Shoboale.